Hey, welcome to Tech Smarter. This is the show where we talk with operators, innovators, and investors who are shaping the future of aging services. I am your host, Abby Ritchie. I'm the tech guru at the Smarter Service. Today's episode is brought to us by Leading Age Arizona, and this show is sponsored by the Smarter Service. Now, if you are a senior living operator and you're struggling with the questions that your residents are bombarding all of your staff with when it comes to tech. And we know their questions have questions. If you're struggling with that, reach out to us here, DM me on LinkedIn, Smarter, and let's help you professionalize this valuable asset in your community. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and bring my guest on to Tech Smarter today. Welcome, Chris Mohrman.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here, Abby. Thanks for having me on the show.
You are welcome. Chris, for anyone who's not familiar with you and what Welcome Home does, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am the VP of Marketing here at Welcome Home Software, and I've been a part of the team now for a little bit over 3 years. Prior to that, I helped launch a marketing agency specific to senior living, and so I'm just a huge fan of the industry. I love the conversations that you have, Abby, and how to equip, enable, empower people from all different perspectives. And that's really the goal of Welcome Home as well. It's a sales and marketing tool. We're a CRM. The running joke at Welcome Home is I couldn't be more perfect for my role because my initials are literally CRM. And so VP of marketing for CRM, it just all makes sense. And, Welcome Home has been an industry leading CRM. We're in United States now and in Canada. We're in over 4,000 communities and agencies, and couldn't be more thrilled to be here today and talk to you about how we can provide something useful for our industry.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone who's been looking for a community for their parents can escape coming through your information. Is that pretty accurate?
I would say, yeah, in some way, shape, or form, right? We've got integrations now on that front end with marketing platforms, marketing automation systems. So that data, people clicking on ads, going through websites, filling out forms, all of those systems that are gathering that data, that flows really seamless into our platform. And then as people are making decisions, going to tours, having conversations with sales counselors, all the different levels of sales, right? That's
Yeah.
associated with senior living. Like you said, the questions about the questions, who's involved in that process, and then, right, post tour and move in and the systems on the other side. Once people, once someone becomes a resident, that data also flowing back into the CRM so that we can really help people have a full understanding of all the steps that have been taken. So you're right. Like we're in the middle of that world, and lots of systems, lots of other software is connected into our world.
It's amazing. You guys recently launched a new platform for insights, senior care insights, which solves a major industry problem. What was the specific gap you saw that made this data subscription such a necessity right now?
Yeah, that's really a great question, right? So as we just mentioned, we've got all of these segments in that journey, that a resident, their significant other. We know that there's other influencers involved. We know that senior living is a multi-layered, multi-tiered decision-making process. And it's emotional, and there's a lots of people that get involved in that, and so because of that, we have, again, all of this data coming from the marketing side, involved in the sales decisions, and then on that move-in side. And so when I got started I was hired about a week after our VP of Customer Insight, Maggie Siebold, shout out Maggie. And we both said, wouldn't it be really incredible to be able to empower our incredible customers, our operators with information about that journey. There's so many touch points, like what works, emails, texting. Now we've got AI in the mix, right? Like we have so many components. And so kind of the evolution of this has been early days. Maggie and I had sticky notes and we had a whiteboard and we storyboarded and we said, what are the things that matter to operators? What are the questions they're asking? How can we provide meaningful data? Again, shout out Maggie and her team. They are the data scientists. They're doing the analysis. I'm just here to help share that information, put it in a package that makes sense and get it out there. But we had that first year in review that we launched. And then from there, we just saw how much of an appetite there has been for that data. In this past year alone, we've had over 3,000 people download, read, access these reports. And so the gap really was, we've got all this data, we've gathered this data, we've got some really incredible reporting and like key takeaways, best practices, and people were wanting more of that. And again, our tagline at Welcome Home is made easy, made for you. I'm not a great marketer if I, can't shout that boldly in every area. And so for us with Senior Care Insight, with the launch of that, it was like, how do we make this even easier? How do we, equip these operators to make these informed decisions with meaningful data? And so that's kind of the gap that we saw, was like, okay, we can hand this off to people in a platform that's more robust, more centralized. They don't have to chase down different pages. They've got one centralized place to go to access all this information.
I think it's so important to focus on the actual data and how they can put it to use, because data is being collected everywhere, but it doesn't help anyone
Yes.
if it's not completely accessible, right?
Yes.
And we also see this in terms of the technology that's being provided at the communities. It's like the engagement platform. It's there, and but if the residents cannot access it and extract the information that they're looking for, maybe it's whether or not the mail has arrived, or maybe it's rescheduling of an activity or a class. If it's not accessible, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't
Exactly.
help anyone, right?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, we've now with AI and these more robust data infrastructures, terms like data lake are being used, and we've got all these new new exciting systems that people are bringing online. But to your point, it doesn't really. How is it useful? That's kind of a when our CEO John Larisha talks about like the North Star of Welcome Home, like how is this thing useful for the operators today, not just a bright shiny object. And so that's been the goal with Senior Care Insight. Like,
Yeah, I feel
okay,
like
here's actionable intelligence. Yeah.
yes, 100%. And in senior living, it tends to be an industry that is slow to move, right? And a lot of the decisions in the past have been based on a gut feeling as opposed to hard numbers. And so this usually falls on an operator. How does your data and your information help them pivot from the intuition to making a decision?
Sure. And that's a great question. So the goal of a lot of this, from kind of the first layer, is just to provide some benchmarking, right? So maybe you're a 1 to 2 community operator in the Midwest. Well, now you've got a place to go to look and reflect and see what's happening in the industry specific to that region. That's some of the new data sets that is now available through Senior Care Insight and the data subscription. You can subscribe, and you can start to see like, okay, what is more of my neighborhood or my state? What does that benchmarking look like? So that you can kind of gauge. So at a very that's kind of level one, is like just to benchmark and see how you measure up. Next is like within the reports themselves, we've helped to extrapolate, okay, what are some best practices? What are some key takeaways? What's working for top performers? What is, some of the voice of the industry is what we've incorporated into this. Like, what are seniors saying? How is messaging being received? What channels are working? So all of that is built into these reports to help them like empower and provide confidence, because a lot of times it's like, okay, cool, I've benchmarked, but what do I do next? Like, what are the next steps that I need to take? And so that's what we've incorporated into these reports as well. So people can see those things and act with confidence. We know there's a lot of, stakeholders in the mix. There's capital, there's investment, there are people that we are responsible to, and being able to make decisions with confidence is really important.
I'm really curious about the benchmarks that you're seeing in Florida, for instance. And we, in 2025, moved into the Florida market. It's different than any other market. It's like a different combination of a resident, of an adult child, moving their parent in there, but living in a different state. How has the intensity of the Florida market shaped some of the specific benchmarks that you've tracked?
Sure. And I think the question that we're looking at is, how has the intensity of each one of these markets really shaped the benchmark? And so that's why we launched this year net new. We've got the state and market benchmark report that for the first time we've released. And what it does is literally take information. We've used census information. We know the senior population, which, by the way, again, I so appreciate the work that you do, because most of the time when we talked about this on a leadership level at Welcome Home, when you start to look at like census data, it's kind of like, all right, well, it's 65 and up. And we know in the industry that's way too broad. We know that there's decision making at more specific ages. It's not this just catch all of like, all right, you're older than 65 and now we don't care. We care a lot. I know you do as well, right? Like, this is a big thing. And so this state and market benchmark report, what we've done is literally break out each state, and to your point of like, what is unique about Florida? Well, what's unique about North Carolina? All 50 of those states are represented in that report. And so again, it allows you to look at, nationwide, regions, again, following kind of the census track there, and then per state, and even diving into some of the markets within the state by city, by region. And that really allows you, again, to measure up and go, okay, I'm seeing this type of activity at my community, in this neighborhood, in this state. What does that look like? From all of Welcome Home's data, like how am I doing in comparison to these other operators? And we, have found that to be immensely helpful. To your point, it's like, wow, now it's not just national trends. We know that we can look into very specific trends in regions.
And because I am so very interested, Chris, is there anything specific to the Florida market that you can share with us?
I think a shift that we're seeing that definitely includes the Florida market is, and again, shout out to Florida. I live here in Tampa Bay. Welcome Home is headquartered in Atlanta. And so I travel up to Atlanta a bunch, but I'm right here in Tampa Bay. I think that something that we're seeing really is a shift from the approach of like, post pandemic, and that seems wild to say because now we're in 2026, like 6 years later. But 6 years later, we've really started to see a shift away from looking just at like occupancy. For a long time, occupancy has been this like main metric that has mattered so much to operators. And now we're starting to look at like NOI, meaning like, what is this net operating, you know, what are all of the contributing factors to that? And I think that's certainly that's involved in Florida as well, where okay, we know occupancy is for the most part like level set. We're not seeing like the wild occupancy gains that we saw post pandemic. So it's like, okay, net operating income. What are the components there? What are the levers? What are the gauges that we can measure in different areas to make sure that we're tracking for success?
So interesting. Another area here that we talk about all the time on Tech Smarter is the dashboard fatigue, where like there's plenty of data, but there's
Yeah,
no clear direction. And how did you design this platform to ensure, for instance, that a sales director knows
sure.
exactly what to bring to a Tuesday morning meeting with them?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, and you're so right. That dashboard fatigue is real, right? The charts and graphs and again, all of the terms related to, we talk about Power BI and where is the data going and pulling from the data, right? So a lot of that approach for us is to not take away, certainly Welcome Home, like as a CRM, is still built with very robust reporting in mind. We're not replacing that. We're not asking people to go to another place, right? Like, so in terms of like specific to operators, those reports are still available. People can action on them. They can be emailed to key stakeholders. All of that has not changed. We're not messing with something that's been very successful and again helps make the whole process very easy for the operator. What we have done is part of the different levels of subscription. So again, sorry, I just keep referencing Senior Care Insight, but the goal of the platform was to say, okay, we've got this free subscription tour or tier where people are able to access the fundamental reports that we think are so key, like we talked about. Like you can go in there, you can subscribe today for free, and you're going to get access to seeing those reports. Then there are other tiers available to people where we've made data sets around some of the things that we're talking about. So we've got like a lead source and analysis data set. We've got an industry data set. We've got that market data set available to people. So we are going to keep that updated on an ongoing monthly basis. And people can then download those files and plug them in. To your point, like they don't need another dashboard. It's a very easy import process to bring that CSV into their current environment system so that they can then measure against, they can benchmark with what else is going on. But you're so right, like we're not looking to plug them into another dashboard. That tier level just allows them to take that data and use it where they're, visualizing data today.
One way that I came across Welcome Home was when we were originally looking for senior home care for my grandparents, and actually that was years ago. So at the end of every data point is a family making a life-changing decision. And how does having just better market intelligence create a more empathetic experience for families?
This is by far one of my favorite questions of the whole talk that we're having. I have the privilege of talking to every person that joins the Welcome Home team just to give them like a 101, an industry 101, and talk about what senior living is and why we do what we do. And this is so near and dear to me because so many of us, surprise, we're all aging. We all have family, loved ones, significant others that may be, beginning the process, maybe evaluating this idea of what senior living looks like, what active aging looks like, all these concepts that we're talking about. The rubber meeting the road in the people that we know, right? The communities that we are a part of. And so I talk to, everybody that joins. It's like we're one step removed from that conversation. Our tool is being used. And if our tool is creating more headaches, more obstacles, more roadblocks, it just makes that job so much harder, right? And so my challenge always is whether it's a new developer or someone joining, our finance team or our ops team, it's like you may never interact necessarily with, with an operator, with our customer, with that salesperson, but know that your efforts, like all of the things that we're doing if we can provide a more efficient and easier process, it relieves the stress, the tension they feel during the day, which in turn I have to believe, I genuinely with my heart like know that it then allows them to focus on the making the main thing, which is having those conversations, which is helping those people making, some of those tough emotional decisions. And so it's like the more we can make that efficient and get out of the way and just provide that meaningful experience for people, the more they're able to really help the senior, help the resident, help the person that's having that conversation. And so that's why I love that, because that's the stage that I set for everybody that joins Welcome Home. It's like, hey, be aware that is what we're doing. Yeah.
Right, right. And when tech handles the busy work, it gives staff, it gives adult children, it gives communities the time to really focus on the human connections that matter. Like we
Yes.
hear over and over again, AI, AI, AI. But when it really comes down to it, especially if you're thinking of something like the smarter service model where we're providing tech concierge
Yes.
support at communities, it's the human connection that's really making the big difference there.
And I would venture to guess, right, Abby, like we've known each other a little while. That's the thing that keeps me going on a day-to-day basis, that reminder that, yeah, I'm working in a tech space and it's fun and software is cool, but the purpose of it, the fact that it's grounded in that kind of community mindset, and these are it's not shoes, it's not bags, it's not watches. Those are all cool things, but the work that we're doing together on behalf of, you know, every generation, I believe, because again, we're all aging. No one's escaping this thing. We've got some fun new AI robots that are running around the streets these days, but ultimately, it's still a very much human experience, and I think that's so important that we continue to remind ourselves of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, the other piece too is capturing the voice of the senior and insights that are
Yes.
coming through within your roadmap. Why is it so critical to stop talking about seniors and start capturing their actual perspective in the data?
That's such a great question as well, and we're gonna be doing that. That's one of our net new reports that's gonna be released this year, just the voice of the senior, and we know that senior, is changing, and we also want to know, again, we don't wanna make these sweeping stereotypes of, like, 55 and up and 65 and up. We know that, that senior, just what they're interested in. We know that there's been so much work done on behalf of health, on behalf of what we're capable of, living longer, living stronger, and so all of those things impact the experience, and we really believe that's necessary to hear directly from the senior, directly from the resident, to share with us, like, what am I interested in, what do I want my future to be, how do I want to engage, and help to shape that future, and not just telling them like, here's what you have. We know that, with the silver tsunami, and I don't even know, like that term may be dated at this point. We
Tsunami
just
sounds like a bad thing, doesn't it?
yeah, you're right. A little bit like coming from Florida, I don't necessarily want to hear like disaster related terms. So that's
Right.
a great call out. But this growing group of individuals that their voices matter so much, right? And so what are the things that they're looking for, and how do we reshape the experience to meet not just needs, but more than needs, like the wants, right? Like we're moving past just basic things and saying like this whole experience in active aging looks a whole lot different these days, and we want to be right there and be aware of what that looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I've realized in working with older adults is that they really do crave understanding their technology, and whereas previously there was this prevailing myth that said older adults don't care about technology, they don't want it. And we all know that that's not true, but that
Right.
myth persisted for quite a while.
Yeah.
And but now, hopefully, we are listening to what they actually need from their technology. And we find that typically when we first start working in a community, that a lot of times in the residents, they just want their things fixed. There's a bunch of things that are broken. They just want them fixed. After these things are fixed, they can continue to really dive into learning and understanding so that they can then adopt the technology, so it really fosters their creativity and their hobbies and connection with family and friends.
Yes. Yes. Huge. That connection piece, how technology really is serving to bring us together, to bring us closer, to bridge those distances. And so to your point of people evaluating different markets, what's available, that tech piece also works in conjunction with that to go, they may not be next door, and some of that shifting mindset. Maybe there's, a senior that says, I actually have a robust community right here where I'm at. I'm not interested in moving across states, across regions. And thankfully, that tech adoption is very real. That's something that we're seeing as well, where people are saying, I have these tools and I want to use them. And I love the work that you're doing in helping, to educate and help train people like, hey, here's all the opportunity that is available to you right now.
Yeah, thank you. We just see that there's a huge digital divide, and there's such a gap in supporting the older generation within their technology. It's like the way we're teaching technology traditionally to older adults is just we're trying to adopt a much younger professional approach to an older adult, and their needs are completely different. So we just see this as it's a gap, it's a
Yeah.
divide that needs to be filled.
I think we both, again, we're not resting at any point. That education piece in so many areas, I think we've done a lot of really good work, and I'm excited about that. I think there has been, a stronger sense of adoption, but I still think, again, I think about the conversations that I'm having with different generations that are joining Welcome Home, and the terms that are still being used, right? Some of
Yes.
the ideas, even for myself, it's like there's a lot of unlearning, that a lot of stigmas that we've just adopted, generationally. We've clung to some things and undoing some of those myths and working through that stuff. And I am more excited, though. It feels like that growing momentum. There's more people out there of all ages that are embracing, like, this is the good work that's being done and is happening right now.
Yeah, speaking of good work, I want you to look forward to, say, the end of 2026 and the integration of the platform and how it's helping an operator. What's one thing you hope an operator feels after
Confidence. Yeah,
confidence?
without
Right?
immediately, like, that is when we sat down and designed this and said, right, like, what's our hope? It is absolutely confidence that people can go in, go into the senior care insights, they can benchmark, but more than that, it's like, oh, I have confidence now in where I'm at, locating themselves in the middle of all of this data,
Yeah.
and making decisions, having real insight. And that's a term that we've also started to really say, like, data is one thing. Like you said, there's data everywhere. Now that's the thing. It's like data is being collected by all kinds of systems. There's probably things collecting data in my house that I don't even know, right? Like, I should be more aware of. We've got all of this smart technology. So data is one thing, but insight is another. Like, to us, insight means, okay, we've helped you translate that data into something meaningful. We're empowering you, which, again, that final outcome of the end of 2026, people that have joined this and said, people that have subscribed and said, I'm more confident today than I was before.
I
That's
love that. I
Yeah.
love that because that's actually the piece that we get also from residents, where they could say, I'm more confident than ever
Yeah.
that I know how to use my phone. I know how to use my tablet. I know how to, connect with family and friends. It's that confidence piece that we are also shooting for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So absolutely love this. And Chris, how can people connect with you for more information?
Yeah. Thanks again for having me here, Abby. This has been such a great talk. And so I've got an email address, Chris at welcomehomesoftware.com. Feel free to reach out and email me. I've also got a LinkedIn. So if you want to connect there, send me a message, see what's happening. And then again, shameless plug for our insights team. If you go to insightswhs.com, you can have access to the senior care insights platform that we've been talking about today. We would love to, answer any additional questions. Insights at welcomehomesoftware.com is also available if you want to learn more and see how you can get connected. You don't have to be a Welcome Home CRM customer to be a subscriber of this insights platform. And we think that's very valuable as well. So that way you just start to, again, build your confidence in the world of reporting that's available today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest. And thank you to Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode. For those of you joining us in the chat later on, we always appreciate your comments and your feedback and suggestions for other guests. And we will see you right back here next week. Thanks.